Hello friends and welcome to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video. This is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and today we are going to be talking about Darth Traya and Darth Sion, and specifically what I think their kits should look like. They're going to be part of the new Sith Raid. Now, again, we have no information as to what that raid will look like, but based on both their kits from KOTOR, based on who they are in the old Legends canon, and then based on what we know from the phases or from the current raids, we can make some very, I think, accurate speculation as to what these characters will look like and how best to either play against them or to play them. And I've thrown together some what I consider some pretty solid attempts at kit building for both of these characters. Now, again, so what I'll do to kind of talk about these two characters is kind of introduce what they were, a little bit of background on each of them. Not much, but I'm specifically going to be focusing on some important aspects of their abilities in game, right? In Knights of the Old Republic 2. Because based off of that, I think that we can kind of pull out and extrapolate, or whatever you want to say, where the game designers are going to develop these kits and how they're going to develop these kits. I'm really excited because they're going to be some pretty awesome kits. I really fully believe they will be. I do think that the way that the raids are set up currently, we're probably going to see something similar. I think we're going to see 4 phases of a raid. I think there's going to be a main boss that you have to defeat, right? Because that's what we have in each one, the Rancor, the tank, very similar. I think that Nihilus, Sion, and Traya, in that order, will be the characters that we fight. Now, based off that, I don't know what a Phase 1 would look like. Phase 1 may be just like you're going up against Marauder or whoever. Based off that, there will also be a mechanic in each phase that will allow players to take advantage of the characters, to take advantage of their weaknesses. Also, there will be a faction that players can choose from that will take advantage of, again, the weaknesses of these characters. Now, I don't know what that faction will be. I don't know what that mechanic will be. But again, we can highly speculate as to what it potentially could be. Now, starting off, I'm going to be talking about Traya. And again, like I said, I'm going to be talking about their backgrounds and their kits. Now, Traya, for those of you who don't know, was a Jedi. She was a historian, very knowledgeable in the Force. She was kind of like the Augusta Nu of the Jedi long before Augusta Nu. Maybe she trained Augusta Nu, who knows? But she was a Jedi consular and then became a Sith Lord. She was prodigious in this Force using power. As Traya, she had a wide variety of Force ability. As Traya, she had an even broader version. She had abilities called Force Horror, Force Speed, Force Crush, Force Cloak, Energy Resistance, Force Scream, Force Lightning, Force Choke. She had a mind trick she used. She was capable of controlling beasts and animals, which may or may not play into this. She had an advanced technique called Force Channel. Traya was also a master of something called Dark Healing. Now, I think some of those, more than others, will definitely play into the abilities, but I think the rest of them will play into like what her actual kit will look like. Not just her abilities, the things that she's using, but her stats. I think with Traya, we are going to see a character who is heavily relies on Force abilities. I think she will have a physical attack, but I don't think that it will be a one that we've seen before, or something similar that we've seen before. I think it's possible that we could see her having a cloaking device. I think she could gain stealth. I think it's possible that she will have a lot of different things. I think she's not going to be an attacker, though. I think she's going to be a support character. I think she's also going to be a leader. Now, I don't have a leadership ability for Traya because I couldn't come up with one. So if you could come up with one, leave a comment in the section below. Let us know. Let's talk. Let's start the discussion. As far as her stats go, I think she's going to be a faster than average character. I think she's going to start out at like maybe 120, 140. So pretty high starting. So like before you put mods, before you put other stuff on, right? I think she's going to have a high tenacity and a high dodge rate. Again, based on her stats, based on who she was in the Legends universe, those two things make sense, right? I'm not really sure that we'll give her, or she'll have a turn meter manipulation mechanic, but I think she should in one form or another, either via a stun or via a daze or something to that effect. I think she will, however, because she was a fast character. And with force speed, she was able to do a number of great things. So I think maybe they'll throw in, make her faster so that she'll go faster. And so that's the force speed instead of giving her the ability to do force speed. Here's what I think her abilities should look like. I think that she should have, her basic ability should be what I call blade throw. It's essentially what we see with Darth Vader, his blade throw, his blade toss, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it is actually called. Very similar to that. But Traya didn't fight physically. She fought with her mind. And she used 3 lightsabers that would kind of swirl around her head. And what I think that those 3 lightsabers should do is attack. I think she should telekinetically throw the lightsaber at her enemy. Every time that lightsaber hits, it's going to deal special damage. If it hits once, it'll attack again. If it hits a second time, it'll attack a third time. And that third time would have like a really high crit chance, like 100% crit chance, right? Not every attack is going to hit. Not every attack is going to be something that's going to be devastating. Maybe you only hit once, so you'd have to probably throw a lot of potency on her. I don't necessarily know. I do think that we should see that in one form or another. Now, moving on, Traya used Force Lightning, and I think it would be sweet to have that as kind of a special ability. Not kind of, I think definitely a special ability. I think her Force Lightning should be something that is used. I think it should be a mechanic similar to Palpatine's. Definitely something that's interesting about the rework of Palpatine is that Force Lightning and Shock were both reworked. Not a ton, but enough. And were they reworked with the concept of giving it to Traya with that in mind? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't necessarily know. But it would be interesting. I do think this could be one of the areas where we see a turn meter reduction or where we see a turn meter mechanic. And maybe it's just something as simple as, it stuns on a crit. I don't know. Even though that's not technically a turn meter mechanic, I mean, we're not reducing turn meter. You're stunning a character for a turn, so it's essentially the same, right? Moving on, because she had Force Choke or Force Crush, I think we should see Vader's new Force Crush added to her. An AoE attack that throws on damage over time. It's not super spectacular, but is also something that can't be retaliated against. I think that it would be very interesting to see that ability coupled with Force Lightning on another character. Like I said, I don't have a leadership ability, but what I think that we should see with her unique ability is some kind of super powerful health steal. Something like Sidious or Palpatine's health steal, but something that doesn't negatively affect those around her. I think that it should affect definitely just the enemies. I think that it would be more potent against certain groups, so maybe against other Sith, maybe against other Jedi. It should be a very potent ability that keeps her healing. Moving on, Sion was at Revan's Academy on Korriban. He trained under Traya on Malachor 5. Essentially, Sion is a zombie that holds himself together, hate and anger and pain, and every time he's struck down, he comes back. And every time he's struck down and comes back, he attacks harder and faster and stronger. And I think those things should be incorporated and will be incorporated both into the game character design, but I think that it could also make it into the way they incorporate him into a phase of the Sith Raid, right? So we'll talk about that here in a minute, but some of the abilities that he had, he was a very powerful attacker, so I think we would see him as a Sith attacker. But he also had some strong force powers. He had Force Whirlwind, Force Wound, Force Slow, Force Rage, Force Immunity, Force Drain, and he was immune to the effects of fear-based force attacks. Now, that last one kind of put me in a pickle as to what that would look like. But what I think this character could and probably will look like is I think that he is going to have some very powerful stats. He's going to be a powerful attacker who is able to self-heal and revive at a very high rate. Think Boba Fett, right? The more he hurts, the stronger he gets. So the lower his health is, the more he's going to damage the opponent, right? This is going to be one of those characters that at the very last, if he gets an attack right before he dies, he is going to deal massive amounts of damage. I think as far as abilities go, he would have a series of powerful physical attacks, and his uniques would definitely be able to revive him. But he would also call on those uniques. He would call on those abilities to not only sustain himself, but make him stronger. Now, I've set up his basic as just something I call lightsaber barrage. Something simple. Sion attacks an enemy 3 times. Each attack that lands increases the damage of the next attack by 10%. Right? So he will attack all 3 times, regardless of whether he hits, unlike what I would give Darth Traya. But each time he lands one of those attacks, it increases the damage or something for the next attack, right? And again, that would be stacking. So it's like, now his first special ability straight from the game, Force Whirlwind, right? This was an ability that he had, and what it would do is it would essentially leave the character unable to attack. What does that sound like? It sounds like a stun, right? So what I think we should see is, tornadoes flying from Sion's hand to an enemy, and it stuns him, but then leaves the character stunned or staggered for 1 turn. Now, again, we've seen something like this with I believe it was the Holdo rework or the Holdo introduction, where characters can be stunned and then I think dazed for 1 turn. So maybe that's what they're going to be doing with this. It's possible. It's likely. Who knows? It is an ability that he had that he relied on. Now, his next special ability, his second special ability, is called Force Rage. Now, the way that I would write this, and I think it's brilliant, but let me know what you think. You might think I'm an idiot. Sion taps into the dark side to increase his speed, offense, and critical chance by 5%, stacking. This ability persists through death. Now, here's the thing. Whether it's a 5% chance or a 20% chance or a 40% chance. Now, if it were stacking at a 40% chance, that's ridiculous. That's why I would say 5, maybe 10% at the lowest. Now, if it is stacking, what we should see probably is this character should be able to be dispelled. This isn't a stacking, locked ability. You can dispel it, which, makes it something that you can take on, right? Because otherwise, if it stacks through his death and you can't dispel it, that's ridiculous. That would be a very, very powerful ability. More so than we've really seen in the game to this point, I think. But I do think that it's something that we should see that persists through death. His next ability, or his first unique ability, the Way of Pain, I don't know if any of these are going to be added. They're probably not. But I'm almost confident that we will see an ability for Sion called the Way of Pain. Because that's what he did. That's what kept him alive. That's what it was called. So I'm pretty sure I hit the nail on the head, but who knows? I might have gotten it wrong. But for me, this is the ability that brings Sion back to life. When he comes back to life, however, Sion would come back with full health and with increased damage output. He would also have full, increased speed, that kind of thing. And that would be stacking through his next death as well. And unlike someone like Boba Fett, who he dies, and unless he can, kill someone again, he can't be brought back again, right? As long as Boba Fett's killing people, he can be brought back as many times as he wants. I think Sion should always be able to be brought back, whether he kills someone or not. And the more he's brought back, the more he is going to deal damage, the more painful he's going to make it for the opposing team. Now, the thing about it, though, is the more he dies, the less likely he is to come back.
I can't believe that just can happen. Is it dead? That's right! You can't kill me!
Now, here's my thing about that. I think Sion, while a great attacker, powerhouse, should be a glass cannon. He should be a character that has a super crazy attack and deals a ton of damage, but is not difficult to defeat. Maybe each time after he dies after the first, his chance of revival are lessened by like 40%. That's what I've kind of put together. And again, I've just looked at the kits from KOTOR. I've looked at their abilities, their stories, and how they engage and how they interact. And I do think that this is something that we could potentially see. Now, whether we see it played out this way or in some other way, I think that we will have these types of abilities, these types of stats, and these types of characters. I don't think we're going to see a slow Darth Traya. I just don't. And I also don't think that we're going to see a super maxed health Darth Sion. I think that we're going to see a glass cannon, and I think that we're going to see someone who's really quick, but doesn't do a lot of physical damage. I think she's going to be a great support, and I think he's going to be a crazy DPS character. But I think together, they're going to have some awesome stuff. Now, if both of these are in a raid situation, then yeah, Sion's going to have quite a bit of health, or he's going to come back a ton, right? Darth Traya is going to, be speedy, but there's going to be a way for you to stun her. There's going to be a way for you to stop her. There will be a mechanic to if these are the bosses for the Sith Raid, there will be a mechanic for you to take advantage of so that you can fight against them, so that you and your guild have a chance to win. But keep in mind, guys, it took people a really long time to defeat the Rancor the first. It took people a substantially less amount of time to defeat the tank, but it still took most guilds a long time to defeat this. Now that we have such deep rosters, I mean, unless you're a brand new player, but if you've been playing for a while, they introduced new characters hand over fist, and now that we have deep rosters, and rosters that take advantage of events like territory battles and territory wars, it is possible that this is going to be a much harder raid than the previous two. Now, as I come to a close, guys, I'd like to give a big major shout out to Gridden from We With Lives. He's in my guild, obviously, and he was the one that kind of helped me with this idea and helped me put together some concepts and helped me think through a lot of this stuff. So thanks to him. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by at our Discord channel. I'll leave a link in the section below, and join the conversation. What do you think? What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you think this raid will look like? What do you think these two characters will look like? I've got to point out, as it was pointed out to me, Nihilus was pretty close in our game as he was to his character build in KOTOR. I'm sure he wasn't identical, obviously, but he was close. Will we get similar characters from Knights of the Old Republic 2 in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes? I'm thinking yes, but who knows? Leave a comment in the section below, like, subscribe, share. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and as always, my friends, stay nerdy.